Javier Milei rocked at Davos, and it's very important to understand the key messages that he gave. More than 20 million people have watched his speech, and the figure continues to rise. Let's go through some of the most important messages. Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for following. Thank you for leaving your comments below. Thank you also for giving a like to this video and subscribing. It's always a pleasure. Javier Milei, the newly elected president of Argentina, has given an unprecedented and very important speech at Davos. What he has said goes completely against this bloated consensus that has been formed around the statist ideas and the constant interventionism that seems to be permeating all of the messages from global leaders and from politicians. And what's most important about it is that he shows that Argentina is not a strange example. Argentina is a warning sign to the world. And some of the messages that he gave are actually very, very relevant. Let's start from one of his key elements. He says, unfortunately, in recent decades, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. Some have been motivated by well-meaning individuals who are willing to help others, but others have been motivated by the wish to belong to the privileged caste. We're here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world. Rather, they are the root cause. No one is better placed than us, than the Argentines, to testify of these 2 points. Far from being the cause of our problems, free trade capitalism as an economic system is the only instrument we have to end hunger, poverty, and extreme poverty across our planet. The empirical evidence is unquestionable. Therefore, since there is no doubt that free enterprise capitalism is superior in productive terms, the left wing has attacked capitalism alleging matters of morality, saying, and that's what detractors claim, that it's unjust. They say that capitalism is evil because it's individualistic and that collectivism is good because it's altruistic, of course, with the money of others. So they therefore advocate for social justice. But this concept, which in the developed world became fashionable in recent times, in my country, Argentina, in his country, has been a constant in political discourse for over 80 years. The problem is that social justice is not just, and it does not contribute to the general well-being. Quite on the contrary, it's an intrinsically unfair idea because it's violent. That those who promote social justice, I quote, start with the idea that the whole economy is a pie that can be shared differently. But that pie is not a given. It's wealth that is generated in what Kirchner, for instance, calls a market discovery process. This is very important because what he says is a key factor. Most of the interventionists think that wealth, that all of the improvement in the economy, that wealth is like a pie, that it's something tangible that can be distributed, and it's just a question of redistribution. But wealth can only be created or destroyed. So I continue. I quote Milei. If the state punishes capitalists when they're successful and gets in the way of the discovery process, they will destroy the incentives, and the consequences is that they will produce less. The pie, and I quote, will be smaller, and this will harm society as a whole. Collectivism, by inhibiting these discovery processes and hindering the appropriation of discoveries, ends up binding the hands not just of entrepreneurs and also prevents them from offering better goods and services at a better price, is that it hinders the entire process of progress. So he goes on to say, and I quote, "It should never be forgotten that socialism is always and everywhere an impoverishing phenomenon that has failed in all countries where it's been tried out. It's been a failure economically, socially, culturally, and it's also murdered over 100 million human beings." He continues to say, "Under the pretext of a supposed market failure, regulations are introduced. These regulations create distortions in the price system, preventing economic calculus and therefore also prevent savings, investment, and growth. The problem lies mainly in the fact that not even supposed libertarian economists understand what the market is, because if they did understand, it would quickly be seen that it's impossible to have market failures. This is key. The market is not a mere graph describing a curve of supply and demand. The market is a mechanism for social cooperation where you voluntarily exchange ownership rights. Therefore, based on this definition, talking about a market failure is a contradiction in terms, an oxymoron. There are no market failures." So there's a lot more said in this speech, but I would like to go basically to the end where I think that he says many important things. "Given the dismal failure," and I quote, "of collectivist models and the undeniable advances in the free world, socialists were forced to change their agenda. They left behind the class struggle based on the economic system and replaced it with other supposed social conflicts which are just as harmful to life and to economic growth." And he goes on to talk about how socialism takes some causes that we all defend in order to introduce interventionism and obviously introduce control and destruction of private property. Another important thing that he says in the speech is that, and you will have the entire speech in the description of this video, is that he says, "The West has unfortunately already started to go along this path, the path of socialism. I know to many it may sound ridiculous to suggest that the West has turned to socialism. But it's only ridiculous if you only limit yourself to the traditional economic definition of socialism, which says that it's an economic system where the state owns the means of production. This definition should be updated in the light of current circumstances. Today, states don't need to directly control the means of production to control every aspect of the lives of individuals. With tools such as printing money, debt, subsidies, controlling the interest rate, price controls, and regulations to correct so-called market failures, they can control the lives and fates of millions of individuals. This is how we come to the point where, by using different names or guises, a good deal of generally accepted ideologies in most Western countries are collectivist variants. Whether they proclaim to be openly communist, fascist, socialist, social democrats, national socialists, etc., neo-Keynesian, progressive, populist, nationalist, or globalist, is almost exactly the same. Unfortunately, and ultimately, he quotes, "There are no major differences. They all say that the state should steer all aspects of the lives of individuals. They all defend a model contrary to the one that led humanity to the most spectacular progress in its history." So the speech continues. It's been viewed by millions because what he is saying is the truth. And it's a very uncomfortable truth. But the most uncomfortable part comes at the end. At the end, he says that the case of Argentina is an empirical demonstration that no matter how rich you may be, how much you may have in terms of natural resources, how skilled your population may be, how educated, how many bars of gold you may have in the central bank, if measures are adopted that hinder the free functioning of markets, competition, price system, trade, and ownership of private property, the only possible fate is poverty. He goes on to address the crowd, and he says, "Do not be intimidated by the political caste or by parasites who live off the states. Do not surrender to a political class that only wants to stay in power in order to retain its privileges. You, entrepreneurs, are social benefactors. You are heroes. You are the creators of the most extraordinary period of prosperity we've ever seen. Let no one tell you that ambition is immoral. If you make money, it is because you offer a better product at a better price, thereby contributing to general well-being. Do not surrender to the advance of the state. The state is not the solution. The state is the problem itself." This is a very important speech because it completely destroys the narrative that we hear day by day by day. All these ridiculous messages about failures of the market, failures of capitalism, failures of everything. Because there may be changes, challenges, all sorts of different elements that can improve with more free market and more capitalism. But there's one reality, is that the state, government, monster government spending and constant control of government of the economy always leads to failure. Why? Because they are spending money without any consequence. More importantly, they don't suffer any consequence from their mistakes. So, if you think that there are market failures, if you think that there are capitalism failures, which in themselves, as the speech shows, are an oxymoron, it's completely ridiculous to think about that. But if anything, they're solved with more free market and more capitalism, not with more statism, because the possibility of statism failure is 100%. Keep defending freedom. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, leave your comments below, and keep defending freedom. Thank you very much.